It's been a long time since we looked at some range DPS and Mythic Plus. And today is Friday. It's a special day because TLF.
Tier List Friday. And we are looking at range because it is their time now in M+, with everybody getting their trinkets and doing stupidly higher keys than last week. So we don't know where things are, so we're just gonna take a shot in the dark and figure out where to put different specs. Not an F tier though.
Well, there's no F tier around here, but you have to understand we are looking at all the data that we can possibly, like warcraft logs, like u.gg, like rare.io, and combine them and hopefully make a very nice non-biased tier list. Non-biased as our Diablo 4 channel. If you're interested and you want to play Diablo 4, maybe check the description. We do have a brand new Diablo 4 channel, Diablo Forever. We're covering like classes, a lot of them, news, all tons of speculation and stuff, and all the content will be at a much higher pace over there once the game goes
we cannot
out.
wait. And if you love the game and you want to support us, check it out, leave a like and subscribe and all that good stuff, because there's bound to be a lot of cool stuff coming up.
Help us grow it, okay? Now shut up, let's go and get into it. Affliction Warlock first on the list. You can bet your ass this is jumping straight into S tier because it's clearing 27s and it has like 300k DPS on average. I'm gonna shut up.
This is not Fantasy Land, man. This is not Narnia. Okay, Affliction, I don't think it's a surprise to anybody. It is actually doing probably the poorest out of all of the DPS specs. Not necessarily because it doesn't have the damage, but it's mostly probably how it's actually doing that damage, which, thankfully enough, it is addressed. We will have a video on it in the 10.15 patch, but until then, it's gonna continue to thunk.
No, the video is already out, guys. You know, it went out yesterday. It's fine. If you guys want to check it out, it's already on the channel. That being said, let's place it on D tier here because
D4 damage
destruction is better. No, just looking at this, we know it's clearing like 20s. I think the highest log we've seen is on a 21. So it's
it's getting there 2Ks and close to 2.5Ks. Actually, the highest Affliction is around 26K. Which is not that bad, but you know, it is struggling behind everybody.
Shut up. All right, the famous chicken who has crossed the roads and ate all the hot dogs, the Boomkin is here and it's giga damage, and what a surprise. It's one of the best performing range DPS, I would say, in the whole spectrum of them. I think I've seen 24s with Boomkin, lots of 24s.
Actually, Boomkin is one of the consistent clearers right now, although we see some of the top specs doing 25s as well. Boomkin is still in the top groups consistently across the board. It's very good. It has been improved since last season where they actually buffed the single target damage, where now...
Single target is doing pretty good, man.
Weirdly enough, it's probably a little bit better than AoE because you are going to run single target talents in M+, which is unheard of in Dragonflight so far, and still top the AoE meters, which is crazy, but I guess that's balance.
Yeah, Denizen of the Dream, you know, Friend of the Fae, all of that, it's still an M+, so I guess a proper placement is here for Boomkin. No surprises. Arcane Mage. But this is a weird one.
This is starting to resurface in the last couple of days. I'm thinking a couple of people have gone. I don't know how good the class trinket is for Arcane Mage. I know it's like broken for Warlocks and a lot of specs.
Call to Arcane Mages.
Yeah, to something. The thing is, it is really good, and the gear this season can offset your performance by quite a bit. And
a bit. It's a song.
So Arcanes are actually doing 22s. There are some Arcanes that are clearing 23s.
Some 23s,
yeah, for sure. Likely by the time this comes out or by the time the week ends, you will probably see some 24s also because it is popping. It still has the arcane issues though.
Yeah, it has the arcane issues. You still have to like sit over there and do a lot of stuff. But however, I don't think there's a higher burst in this game than the arcane burst. When that bad boy bursts, you can feel it on the other neighborhood.
That's the thing. If you can actually get the burst out, it's really good. But I think there's not a lot of mechanics and affixes that will allow you to do that.
Yeah, but it's also very reliant on PI to like get to that like giga turbo booster, right? But nevertheless, we should place it into B tier here. We're gonna look at the end at all of the research and see exactly how these specs are kind of like standing with each other numbers wise.
Sure.
All right. BM Hunter, I would say another winner for the keys. I'm seeing like a lot of 23s over there.
Yeah.
It's like I don't know, it's super consistent, nothing like about of the other,
yeah,
it's super safe.
Nothing really to say about it. It doesn't have any outstanding points, it doesn't have any like negative points as well.
Good.
It's solid, whereas in the past season you would just melt bosses out of the park and kind of struggle a little bit on AoE. Now it's pretty much good across the board, maybe a little bit better in AoE. So not much to say. Obviously the Hunt's utility is really good with the affixes this season. You can definitely offset stuff like entangling with disengage, but that's, you know, that's true for marksman as well. We'll get to that. But I think it's probably like the safest class to get into your group, so invite your BMs.
Yeah, get BMs in. There's really no mistake to be done here. I think it's, you know, just having
it's slightly
to do
above
everything.
Arcane. It's doing slightly higher.
It's a lot more higher keys than Arcane. This is why we're placing it into A tier. I'd say it's a good spot for BM, no problemo. Demonology Warlock, was expecting a lot more from Demonology.
Yeah, I actually kind of sensed it, starting because obviously I'm maining Warlock and I play more Demonology than any other specs. It's good. It definitely relies a little bit on the gear from the raid. You definitely want the Neltharion Trinket, although that only really shines in Tyrannical, and as opposite from before, now in Tyrannical you can actually run portal builds in dungeons and actually do really good. I've seen demos do 130k on bosses in Tyrannical keys in 23s and stuff, 22, 23s.
Yeah,
that's pretty high for a Tyrannical key.
You say that, but the overall AoE, however, is a little bit lower. Like when compared to other top specs, you're looking at a difference of 30-40%. With the AoE damage. That being said, I mean, it still feels like the least punished Warlock spec in Mythic Plus.
It's solid.
Well, outside of Nether Portal and, you know, the Tyrant and all
it's
of
the
that.
Beast Mastery of
More or
Warlock
less,
specs.
yeah,
it's consistent, it's safe.
Yeah, but okay, we can again put it into a safe zone here, which is
for sure.
Not a big loss, I would say, for Demonology Warlock. I was just expecting a little bit more. Destruction. Let's look at it for how do you call 25 keys? 25 keys?
So 20. That was like
on average. But yeah.
So 1 or 2 is 25. So destruction is consistently one of the better specs out there. You're gonna have a hard time seeing this in your average 15, 16, 17s because destruction is super reliant on your tanks actually pulling properly and the mobs living high enough because it definitely has one of the highest scaling AoEs in the game. It's uncapped. It doesn't stop scaling. So essentially it can have infinite amount of damage, but obviously there's a lot of factors going into it, not to mention even with like a full AoE build, you still have one of the strongest single target damage profiles in the game, which is probably what's going to keep it in the tier that it's going to end up in, because even on Tyrannical keys, you want that boss to go down, and Destruction can definitely deliver that, plus all, you know, Hellstones and gates and stuff.
I mean, you cannot really counter the Warlock utility in any capacity of the game. I guess one big negative would be that it gets giga punished by movement and mechanics. You know, there's specific dungeons where Destros will have a very, very hard time. I mean, I cannot help but think on Neltharion Lair, where you get to that part where like things rocks come down, and you have to be really fast to move. Like you cannot really cast in that.
Yeah, that's one thing. But then the pack also usually gets moved there as well, so it's like kind of double dipping into.
Well, I mean, you know, you cannot have them all. But with that being said, let's place this bad boy into S tier. Better than Boomkin, I would say.
Actually, no. Boomkin is doing slightly better than Destro in
You can see whatever you want. I'm putting it in front of
all right, you're right.
I'm joking.
No love for the chickens.
I love the chickens. No, I love
KFC,
the chickens.
man. Put the fire underneath the chicken so we can get some crispiness.
Yeah, I'm putting the Fire Mage underneath the Boomkin because that makes sense. Another great spec in Mythic Plus, hands down.
For sure.
And it is looking to a major and very nice improvement in terms of rework. We're gonna have a video on that for sure.
Yeah.
But so far in the current meta, I see a lot of Fire Mages pushing like 24s. That's like the average. Obviously, the damage output is ridiculous, crazy, and it's also one of the favorite PI.
It is. I mean, if you look at the top fire logs, there's like 14 to 23 PIs shoved in. But we did see a bunch of logs where fire mages were out DPSing other fire mages with PIs, and they didn't have PIs. So I think it's probably why a similar argument as with Destruction is why you don't see fire do really good in your average keys, considering, you know, everybody does average keys. This is because it relies heavily on certain pull timers, certain pull amounts.
Oh yeah.
So a good tank can make a fire mage do really well at the end of the day.
It's very dependent on the tank for sure. Yeah, especially like when you get that Sun King, when you get that Pyroclasm. You know, if you don't have it in time, or if the tank just pulls right after your stacks expire, it's pretty nasty. So yeah, on average bug level, you won't see fire mages doing that well, but in organized groups, this is an S tier spec, guys. There's no question about it. Frost. I've seen 23s, 24s.
Yeah,
and I've
Frost,
seen 25s. This is like the highest
Frost
one?
is, Frost is actually doing, there are Frost mages that are doing 25s and Boomkins aren't yet doing 25s. I think this was one of the biggest surprises that we've seen so far is because I think Frost just popped off this week.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's because it's the second reset, the second vault, maybe they got in their tiers, maybe their tiers is really strong, maybe they even gotten the Notharian Trinket as well. That's what I mentioned, that, you know, some of these just seem to do like a lot, and the damage is really high, man. It's like almost Fire Mage level. I was like, well, what's going on?
This is, I mean, we can still keep it into like S tier because, again, the highest keys over there. The damage profile is super good.
It's really high. I think like overall, it hasn't done as high keys as everybody else in S tier, but it's clearing keys at that level now. So we would assume that in about a week is going to be at that level. So I think this is just the start of a really good adventure for Frost Mages. I don't know what's going on.
Hey, and we love Frost Mage. We love basically we love all Frost Mages. All why am I keeping Frost Mages?
I like ice cream.
All mages specs, okay? All specs of the mages, we love them all right? Marksmanship
Mage for
Hunter.
life.
Again, another spec that I've seen with 25, but although the average is 24.
Yeah.
This is like interesting because Marksman has like giga single target now. Like you've seen, like,
the tables are flipped, man.
Yeah,
before it was like just massive AoE burst.
Giga AoE burst, exactly, and now it's like for single target. I mean, you can definitely see it shine in tyrannical weeks for sure.
Yeah.
It's like the overall damage is super good. You know, it still retains its high burst, no problemo. You know, the hunter utility, all of that. I'm guessing the AoE is a little bit lower.
Yeah, so the problem that it had last season, I think it's more prominent this season around, is that you do have high burst. It is kind of AoE soft capped. You don't hit like infinite amount of targets like Beast Mastery would do, or Destro. It's super high at the beginning, but the longer the pack stays alive, likely the lower Marksmanship's damage is going to be.
So, but that being said, it's not the biggest problem, so we have to put this one into
one of the highest boss killers of the patch.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely going to see some Marksman on Tyrannical. Like, this week is going to be Marksman all the way, I feel, because of the single target. Okay, Devastation, I would say another big pumper.
Yeah,
I think we're looking at big pumpers all day long here.
Yeah, I don't know. Everybody seems to be doing really good this
week is exactly that, because most of these specs and these players got their Notharian Trinket plus the 4-set. And I think that's a huge power spike for the majority of them. I mean, you see Devastation Evokers in 24s, you know, topping the meters, no problem. Lots of logs over there. Another spec that is very known for its high burst. It's very great on bosses. As opposed to last season, again, this is very weird. It's not thrown as banner.
It went in through the similar mini rework that Balance went through, where they've addressed its single target being a problem, because there was a little club last season with casters that have giga AoE and almost no single target. Balance was there, Devastation was there as well, and now they're looking to, you know, kind of uniform that away, and now Devastation has probably one of the highest DPS outputs in the game. It might not have the flexibility that's to a group like a Mage would, or like a Bounce Druid would with all the Druid thingies, but it definitely brings the damage and doesn't seem to be as squishy anymore.
Yeah, it lives a lot longer, and this is very important for Mythic Plus, you know, not being like paper strong like. So I would say S tier.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, another S tier. This time around, we have a lot of S tiers, okay? What about Elemental Shaman? I know everybody was playing Enhancement because Enhancement is the shit with its 4-set and all of that. Well, what do you know?
It's seeing a similar resurgence with Frost Mage, where it's just coming into its own. Well, it might have been doing this for like more than a week, but right now it's definitely clearing 24s, which is usually kind of where all of the S tier specs are right now. It's super solid. It has like really good damage all around, and I cannot imagine that a lot of people would like an Elemental because of its toolkit. I feel like you have a lot of options to deal with all the new affixes and stuff, and I think that definitely really helps.
Yeah, for sure. We haven't seen too much of a great performance in the past from Elemental. It was either consistent or below the average pack. Now, if you look at the logs from the week prior, 24 keys, super damage. You mentioned the utility, you know, interrupts, caps, hexes, all of that, you know, poison, clearing, cleansing totem. So I guess we can place this bad boy somewhere.
It's really good. It's definitely the
somewhere in the S tier department. Let's just put it over there. Okay, we still have one more spec to talk about. The Shadow Priest. Okay, I think this is the only spec that is consistently clearing 25 keys. A lot more loss for 25s. I mean, you've seen a couple of other specs like a Frost Mage here and there that would do with 25s. Not too many, but Shadow Priest, you can definitely say it. This is like, we cannot really counter anything about Shadow Priest.
You cannot really say much. Obviously, it's probably the best source of PI, although we do see a lot of Disciplines and Holy Priest healing the higher keys. But it's very clear that as opposed to Shadowlands, although that was probably a good time too, there are more specs now that love PI more than ever. So even if you have your second Priest, that's definitely going to be a big plus in terms of your overall damage damage output. And it's just really good. Like, I don't know what they keep doing with this reworks, but it's just consistently good all around.
Super giga high damage all around. I guess, you know, the fact that it's like super immobile, maybe a negative in Mythic Plus. That would be the only one to think about, because other than that, it's like the best performance spec period right now.
For sure.
So we have to place it in front of the S tier. I think this is the clear winner of the range DPS in Mythic Plus.
Shadow is definitely slightly better. We thought if we should just have Shadow in S tier, but considering that everybody's just doing like 24s and even getting into 25s, they're way too close to be put like a tier difference. But it's a good time to be a caster for almost all of them. I don't think we've ever had these many specs in S tier before.
Everybody you get an S tier, and you get an S tier, and you get an S tier. But yeah, it's a big S tier schlong over here. I feel that this will only remain for a week, 2 max.
It's likely gonna change.
Yeah, will change for sure. Especially because we're looking at a very different future for a couple of these specs that are getting addressed. Timo Warlock, I'm sorry. But let's look a little bit at the data we've like looked at. So first of all, let's pull up the Warcraft logs, okay? Looking at the Warcraft logs, you see Arcane Mage being like
that was weird, because I was looking and I was like, okay, well, what's going on with Arcane Mage? Why is it so high? Why is it still the best performing specs? But it's probably very consistent. Now it's not clearing as high keys as everybody else. Maybe the Warcraft logs is taking the data from the last couple of days after the reset, which maybe is just the start of an Arcane amazing S tier journey, and it's likely going to do higher keys the next couple of weeks. But so far, Frost Mage, for instance, has done way better than Arcane. So that was like the really unexpected thing.
And this is the thing, right? Like if you look at the individual logs and then take a look how many Frost Mages, how many Arcane Mages, how many Fire Mages, and look like at the average keys those guys did, you're definitely gonna see higher keys being played on both Fire and Frost. So it's not always only about the damage done when looking at least when looking at Warcraft logs. Now, if you pull up u.gg rankings.
This one feels a little bit outdated because we did do our research for the melee specs last week, and it's almost the same thing. Everybody's in the same tier. Some of them are a little bit better within the same bracket of the tier, but otherwise, Arcane is in C tier, Fire is in C tier. I don't know where they're getting their data from.
There's no way. I mean, if a Fire and Elemental in B tier, there's no way. I mean, again, guys, when looking at these and seeing that the majority of these specs are either tapping slightly into 1 or 2 attempts on the 25 time, and the average being on 24s, you cannot put them in C or D tier. It's just not the way to go.
If anything, I think Subcreation is probably one of the most accurate compared to what we decided to rank specs as. The most accurate depiction of specs performance. I think Subcreation puts Shadow Priest and Boomkin into S tier, which kind of makes sense. Some of the top keys, like top 10 keys, are basically cleared with a Shadow Priest and a Boomkin in your team, plus a melee or something like that. So I guess it would make sense. But the other ones are just so close to these two that would feel just egregious to like put it down the peg.
Yeah, but that's it. We are taking into account all of these and try to make our own little twist on it. I feel it's only deserved that the majority of these specs are in S tier. I think we cannot we've mentioned all of our arguments. You will also mention your arguments in the comments, so let us know what you think about. And again, this is not our personal tier list. This is once again looked at from an objective, as much of an objective angle as possible. Right. Sure. This is it. That being said, thank you, Patreons, for supporting the content. Always love you guys. Check the link in the description to find out more. And don't forget, Diablo Forever is also in the description. Our brand new channel for Diablo, which comes out in a week. A week for the pre-order, for the early access or whatever that would be like.
Which
on
we
the 2nd
have.
of June. Yes, you can expect a lot more content for that. Thank you for watching the video.
Appreciate it.
You have a great weekend. All right? Okay. Bye.
See ya.
I've been loving it then, I still love it now. Still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. Getting better every day, let me show you how. Cause still, I play WoW. Still, I play WoW. It's getting harder to stay, but at the end of the day, it's a guilty pleasure, so just log in and play. Whether it's classic or retail, I'ma do a /bow. Still, I play WoW.